What up, people? Some time ago I made a video about some unappreciated anime that people overlooked in their heyday. Well, what do you know, with the amount of anime coming out every season, before this one at least, you can't avoid the sad fact that eventually something is going to get overshadowed by 4 or 5 hard hitters in its season. Therefore, we'll go once again back to the topic of underrated anime, and for this video I'll be taking you through a tour of 10 more anime that I think deserve more love than they got. Coming from the well-renowned PA Works, known for their slice-of-life dramas, is a vampire series? Really? Something's wrong there, isn't it? This doesn't look like a coming-of-age story or a drama set in rural Japan. PA Works does manage to pull out a surprise or two now and again, and I personally think that Sirius the Jaeger is one of them. It tells the story of 1930s Japan, where vampires have appeared. Facing against them are the Jaegers, a group of vampire hunters that includes our protagonist, Yuli. However, the fight between the Jaegers and the vampires is not what it seems. Beneath the surface, the two factions are actually fighting over the Ark of Sirius, a powerful artifact that could change the fate of the world. I wouldn't say that Sirius the Jaeger is something really high up the PA Works totem pole given the studio's resume and how admittedly saturated the vampire genre has become over the years, but nonetheless, I still think that this show deserves a little bit more love. It has good action, a nice premise, and some really top-class visuals that capture the setting so well. I didn't expect PA Works to come up with an action thriller in the first place, and I'm pleasantly surprised at how it turned out given my expectations. Now, I like to call the 2000s all the way to the early 2010s as the era of the battle shonen as far as mainstream anime goes. Superpowered teens galore, and they come in all sorts of flavors back in that time. It's kind of like isekai in the modern era, and it's kind of hard to stand out actually, and such is the unfortunate fate of Codebreaker. For me, one of the last notable ones riding on the ever-fading momentum of the big three as battle shonen began the transition into the new stars is Codebreaker. I mean, it's not that popular, and that's why it ended up on this list in the first place. I mean, it's not that bad a show. I think that Codebreaker does have the unique gimmick of being a battle shonen that explores the idea of good and evil instead of focusing on friendship or growing up. Just what is good and what is evil? What is justice? Those are questions that the series set out to answer with its two main characters, who have an interesting dynamic of their own. It may be a far cry from being anime of the year in 2012, but I think that Codebreaker is overall actually a decent watch if you're up for some darker battle shonen and have a bit of time to spare. It certainly deserved a bit more popularity than it did get back then. Now here's another anime that didn't air too far back. Inuyashiki tells the story of Ichiha Root, an almost retired family man going through typical old man problems. His body's giving out, he has cancer, and his family apparently hates him, so he naturally finds solace in his dog like any near retiree would. However, in one emotional trip with his dog, he gets caught in an explosion, and lo and behold, he gets reborn as a cyborg. Being the good-natured man that he is, he decides to use his newfound powers to help other people. Unfortunately, he's not alone in being affected by the explosion. The teenage Shishigami also gains powers, but he's not using them for good. Thus begins a battle between generations and ideals for the fate of Japan. I'd say that Mappa did one amazing job at adapting this manga. The visuals look amazing, and add to that spectacle a superpowered cyborg grandpa fighting to save Japan. I was hooked from the get-go in this story that goes beyond the standard good versus evil fare, and was quite surprised that the series wasn't as popular as I expected it to be. I guess it just had to do with how wild the premise sounds. We've got Katana Gallery at number 7. Seeing the Gallery at the end of the title and the name of the author, I won't blame you if you mistake Katana Gallery as another entry in the storied Monogatari franchise. I thought so when I was about to get into the show as well. Now, while the two series have similarities, being from the same writer and all, I think that Katana Gallery stands out as its own thing altogether. This is mostly helped by the art style, which is unlike most of the things we see in modern anime. The characters stand out flamboyantly against the signature backgrounds that the show employs. It seems that Nishio Isin also has an affinity for good dialogue in Monogatari, and it shows as early as this series. While I know a lot of you would have preferred more action in a story about, you know, swords, I guess it all worked out in the end. Katana Gallery really stands out for how niche it does seem at times. While by no means an unpopular series, I do think that this is one of those animes that deserves just a little bit more love. It's not a long series, so it shouldn't be a time sink that would deter a lot of watchers. Plus, it's just a testament to the greatness of the author known as Nishio Isin. I mentioned that the 2000s to the early 2010s can be considered a heyday for shonen series, and that it's so easy to get lost in the shuffle. Another one of those that got lost in the shuffle is Beelzebub. Combining action and a lot of comedy, it tells the story of Tatsumi Oga, the king of the toughest school of delinquents in town. Naturally, he gets picked to be the caretaker of the son of the demon lord Baby Beel. Of course, things don't go easy for someone who just found the future lord of the underworld. Joining the fray is the underworld's super competent maid, and the peerless ogre might have found his match. He may be the king of the delinquents, but how will he fare in dealing with the prospect of fatherhood? Non-stop laughs await in this comedy anime. The plot does turn serious a couple of times, but make no mistake, this is purely shonen comedy. Not quite in the veins of Gintama, but you get the point, don't you? If you're up for some crazy fun, it's time to put this anime on your to-watch list. Now, before we move on, some of you guys might have a very important question in your minds. You might be saying to yourself, hey, these shows are awesome and all, but I can't watch them legally. Crunchyroll and Netflix in my region just don't have these shows. Well then, let me introduce you to the sponsors of this video, ExpressVPN. All you need to do is open the app, choose a country and connect to your server of choice. Say goodbye to all those blocked websites and region locks in a simple click. It has by far the smoothest and fastest speeds in any VPN service I've used before. It sounds awesome, right? Here, let me help you out by giving you 3 months free, and all you have to do is click the link below, or just go to expressvpn.com/ViniiTube. So, what are you waiting for? Bypass all those pesky region locks and even browse sites not available in your region with the ever-trusty ExpressVPN now. Right. Let's get back to the show. Not to be confused with Cygame's money-making machine Grand Blue's, a comedy series starring Iori Kitahara and his new life after moving into the coastal town of Izu. Living in Grand Blue, his uncle's diving shop, he finds out the unfortunate fact that the shop is in fact being used as a base of operations by the local diving club, which is composed of partying drunkards. Making matters worse is his female cousin catching him in an embarrassing party situation. Welcome to the crazy life in Izu, Iori. Better strap down and brace yourself. In my opinion, Grand Blue differentiates itself from most of its peers in the genre by featuring college students. College is generally the time of discovery where people go hard either in partying, studying, or other ways. I think that Grand Blue did a good job presenting the fact of college being both a carefree time and a time where people venture out and start learning the realities of life. With its shenanigans, it's not too hard to spend your time laughing yourself dry while watching this series. I did recall some people talking about Grand Blue when it aired some 2 years ago, but if you're in the same season as an Attack on Titan season and an Overlord season, it kinda gets hard to stand out. Shining bright at number 4 is Land of the Lustrous. We've seen ships, airplanes and whatnot get turned into girls. How about gems? Introducing you to the brilliant 27 series Land of the Lustrous. Land of the Lustrous is set in a world inhabited by gems. The gems must fight for survival against Lunarians, beings who attack them in order to turn them into decorations. Voss, our protagonist, aims to aid in the battle against the Lunarians. However, being the fragile gem that she is, she gets assigned to compile the world's history instead, a far duller task than what she dreamt of. This series managed to fly under the radar despite the interesting premise. Perhaps it was maybe a lack of hype, perhaps it was because 2017 had a lot of good anime, or maybe because it was a CGI anime. Look, I know how people feel about CGI anime, but I really truly feel this anime showed us that CGI anime can actually look really amazing if it's done right. If you've seen Beastars, which was made by the same studio by the way, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Whatever the reason, Land of the Lustrous deserves a lot more love for being an enjoyable show about change and self-discovery. How about something esports related for our third place entry? Let me introduce to you King's Avatar. It's easy to see why King's Avatar can be considered an underappreciated show. First of all, by the time it came out, gaming shows have become commonplace. It feels it's kind of harder to stand out now as an up-and-comer in the genre. The second thing is, it's a Chinese anime, and I can't help but think that it's partially why it didn't get that much traction with the more casual side of the fanbase. Now that's a shame as well, because I think that King's Avatar is an anime that separates itself from the lot by being being character-focused. We're all too used to the million people getting trapped in video game shows or them playing casual adventures with friends, such as the case of Netoge no Yome or Bofuri, which I consider premise-centric. In King's Avatar, the characters, specifically our protagonist Yu Shu, are the centerpiece, and they undergo similar changes as the characters we've grown to love, but on slightly different beats. Let me make it clear that this is not completely an esports anime. However, it does tell a good story about our main character, a powerful glory player forced into retirement through politics to genuinely growing and loving the game once more. If you have the time and are up for some gaming anime, you should definitely give this one a shot. Next up is one of the great thrillers at the midpoint of the decade, Arjun. Years past, the titular Arjun or demi-humans appeared. Carrying the ability to suffer fatal injuries and not die, they're considered a huge boon for research all over the world. Now, what happens when those monsters strike back? That's the basic premise of this thriller starring Kei Nagai, who finds his world turned upside down the moment he awakens as an Arjun. Forget friendships. When your bounty is high, there are no such thing as friends, except for his delinquent friend. On the run, Kei looks to find the Society of Arjun. However, the survivors that form this group don't take too kindly to humans. Now, when I first read the premise, I somehow got reminded of Tokyo Ghoul or Parasite. All in all, Arjun goes in a pretty different direction, but it's nonetheless a good watching experience. It does raise some questions about what constitutes a human and does feature one of the better villains off the top of my head. The CG might take a while to get used to, but don't let that stop you from watching this interesting series.
So tonight I'll sing a song to all my friends.
Classic literature and anime is a combination that has delivered, to use a mixed bag. Grabbing the top spot on our list is Good SOooo. Given its legacy, I'm not surprised that the Count of Monte Cristo got the anime treatment. What I didn't expect to see was how underrated it is for something that's so good. Must be the age, since this is a 2004 series. It's either that or something along the lines of classic literature anime just not being popular enough. Either way, Good SOooo is the reimagining of the Count of Monte Cristo. Now, a lot of you who've taken your literature class probably know of Edmond Dante's quest for revenge, but in Good SOooo, his tale gets remade to include some sci-fi elements. It's a creative adaptation through and through, yet the story still sticks and carries itself really nicely with its thought-provoking narrative and great characters. That's not even getting to the unique and charming art style that the series employs. The opinion on the art is divided, but I think it helps add to the classic flair that the series is going for. Gonzo came away with a winner of a mid-2000s series. And that just about wraps it up for this list. 10 more underappreciated anime for you. With so many more anime on my mind, who knows? Maybe we can get a third volume of this list. If this video gets 15,000 likes, then I'll definitely consider making one. Don't forget to check out our sponsors of this video, ExpressVPN. Bypass all those pesky region locks and even browse sites not available in your region with the ever-trusty ExpressVPN now. I'll see you next time on ViniiTube.